Sacco and Felice, New York and New Jersey's premier attorneys at law. Their team brings decades of experience across a wide range of practice areas. Whatever life brings, they're your legal team. From everyday matters to complex cases, they've got you covered with the experience you need and the results you want. Because when life gets complicated, they make it simple. SaccoFelice.com. SACCOFILLAS.com. 2 C's, 2 L's.
The Rita Cosby Show. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, some new updates on some of the numbers tied to the California races. First off, let's go to the mayor's race. Karen Bass, of course, won in the number 1 slot, but it goes to a 2-person race. And right now, with 62% of the vote in, Karen Bass gets 35%. Spencer Pratt gets 29.9%, almost 30%. And Nithya Raman, the Democratic Socialist, gets 22.8%. So it looks like Spencer Pratt has a good, sizable lead to make it to the final round. But we'll see. And then here in the California governor's race, with 56% in, Steve Hilton still holding that great lead, 27.6%. The Republican against Javier Becerra, the former Health and Human Services Secretary for Joe Biden, who even some people who work for Joe Biden said did a lousy job. Well, Javier Becerra is now 25.6%. And then you have Tom Steyer, the climate activist billionaire, who is 19.8%. So Steve Hilton has a good sizable lead there. So there's a good chance you might see Steve Hilton and also Spencer Pratt in the final rounds. But get this, in California, because there are so many mail-in votes, and there seem to be even having a problem just counting the regular votes. This is not Florida. Florida, they decide within a few hours. I mean, this is crazy. This is truly crazy town. But in California, I guess they have an election month or an election year. So they have 13 days from now to count, and then they certify it on June 26. So what could go wrong between now and June 26? Anyway, here is Spencer Pratt, and this is what he had to say at the after party when the results were coming in. And obviously, he was a happy Spencer Pratt.
Obviously, God wanted 5 more months of me exposing all the failures of our mayor. So it's going to be a fun ride. I hope she's ready.
Are you ready?
I mean, I was born for this, clearly.
I was born for this, literally. And Nithya Raman, who, again, is the Democratic Socialist from the Zohran Mamdani camp, this is what she had to say. She was very emotional when she saw the numbers come in, thinking this is bad news.
I've been a candidate for something as long as you can remember. And you've had to live through it with me. And you've been so patient through all of it. Thank you. Karnan Kaveri, I hope you know that everything every person in this room is fighting for in this campaign has been about building a city that's worthy of you and every child in this city.
By the way, one of the last things she started talking about was the bikes lanes. They're worried about getting their homes back. They're worried about people shooting up in the streets. And all she kept talking about was bikes, bikes, bikes. No wonder she's in third. And here is Steve Hilton. He is in the California governor's race, as we know, and he's now leading the charge, again, barring who knows what happens with these mail-in votes. But here he is, and he was elated at the news and said that his adopted country of America, well, God bless the USA.
And I know that some of you may be watching and saying, who is this guy with a funny accent? Thinks he can be governor of California. Well, you know, there was actually an immigrant who was governor of California not that long ago. And I remember when I became an American citizen, that certain governor you may remember he said, congratulations. He made a very nice video. He said, but Steve, you got to get the wrong jacket. You got the wrong jacket. And I made a pledge that day that one day I would get the jacket that Arnold told me to get on my road to being governor of California. And here it is. I am a proud American. There's the jacket. And I am a very proud Californian. A very proud Californian tonight. Arnold, that was for you.
And he said he will be back. He will be back. By the way, I bring up the mail-in votes, you guys, because that's a huge concern. Huge. What could go wrong? Well, this is chilling. Joaquin in the last hour brought up the Katz and Cosby show. And earlier today on the show, we talked to Tom Fenton. He is with a great investigative group. They do a lot of suits where they obtain information, Freedom of Information Act, and they have discovered some bombshells through the years. And he broke a bombshell today about a lot of votes, let's just put it this way, on the California voter rolls that shouldn't be there. And I wanted to play this for you. Take a listen to this conversation we had with Tom Fenton. And you guys, let's go to Tom Fenton, head of Judicial Watch. And Tom, do you have an update on the voter rolls? Go to that first if you got it.
We just sued California because there are 873,000 names that are dirty on the list. They've had names going back as long as 10 years on the list, dirty names. And the challenge is they're not cleaning the names as they're supposed to. So that means you get people who move away and almost assuredly start receiving ballots at their former addresses.
Wow. Do we know where in California, by the way, Tom? Because, boy, is that relevant, especially given what happened, the primary, and we're waiting for results.
Well, when you're talking nearly 1 million names, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And so it's a statewide issue. It's at least 873,000. When all is said and done, it's going to be much larger, in my view, because they are not even tracking what they're doing as they come as they're supposed to. It's a simple process. Hey, if you don't vote, they send you a card. And if you don't respond to the card or don't vote for 2 federal election cycles, so this is a few years, they remove your name. They're not even doing that.
Wow. Now, what about when you talk about they don't remove? Are they dead people? Are there evidence of people voting twice?
Well, it's hard to know because if someone is getting a mail-in ballot and voting in someone else's name, there's no way to figure that out.
Wow. And they're waiting on mail-in ballots now.
And things you don't know. Yeah, the mail-in ballots make it nearly impossible to control for voter fraud. It really is a disaster in that regard. And on top of things, the whole system is undermined by counting ballots forever and a day. And so the big news that your listeners should be watching for is the Supreme Court. We expect to rule any minute now in terms of before the end of the month, whether or not states can count ballots that arrive late. In California, they arrive for up to 7 days after Election Day, and they still get counted. And the court may end that like that.
Wow. And when could we potentially hear on that? And could that affect, by the way, if this decision, I'm looking at Judge Weinberg who's here, if that decision came down, would it be retroactive to this election or it only goes forward?
It should be applicable.
It should be applicable. That would be amazing.
Depending on what the ruling says, it could be applicable to the next federal election, which is November.
Right. They should.
Right.
And that's the right thing to do.
Right. Those are federal elections. That's why I just want. I'm making it. That's where I'm asking.
And then your point's well
taken.
taken.
The primaries aren't covered, but it's certainly going to make it harder for states to count ballots, as I say, forever and a day. Election day needs to mean something if you want people to have confidence in the elections.
Tom is absolutely right.
Tom, that is stunning. Now, before we let you go real quick, is California aware that they have 873,000 that shouldn't be on the voter rolls?
Oh, they gave us the numbers. So you betcha.
And they have done nothing to clean it up as far as you know.
No, they're fighting us. Obviously, we sued, hopefully we're able to get them to see reason. I mean, in Oregon, a left-wing state, they cleaned 800,000 names as a result of the settlement. Up in New York, your voting rolls, they cleaned almost 1 million names from, thanks to a settlement with Judicial Watch. So it's just because they're blue doesn't mean they won't settle and do something that no normal person would object to, which is if someone moves away from the state and you know about it, remove them from the rolls.
That's pretty incredible, guys. You just heard it. 873,000 that are technically not eligible that are still on the California voting rolls. And if you look at the amount in between, even though in these races that we just talked about with Pratt and also Steve Hilton, they're ahead. Pratt in the second position and Hilton in the first. But if suddenly a whole bunch of votes show up from a whole bunch of dead people, I hope they get challenged. Put it that way, because as you just heard from Tom Fitton, Oregon cleaned it up, New York cleaned up 1 million, and you have 873,000. That's an enormous amount that they should be checked. You should be cross-referencing every single voter. So I hope that they do that if something doesn't seem right at the end of the day. Let's put it that way, because you have till June 26th to certify that one. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Veronica in New Jersey on line 4. Oh, Veronica, I'm in mourning for New Jersey with this Hamawy guy.
I don't blame you. I'm in mourning also.
I'm sorry.
Oh my!
We'll have to cry together.
I've been in mourning since Mikey Sherrill got elected.
Oh, so you've been crying for a little while now. I'm so sorry.
I've been crying for years in New Jersey, and what's crazy is, Rita, I love living here. See, I'm in Ocean County, so
pretty. Yep.
At least we have. It's more of a conservative county, and we've got some sane people here.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. How did the rest of the state? How did that district, the New Jersey 12, pick a guy? How did 28% say, that's the guy I want?
You know, Rita, I was born and raised in Jersey City, and it was always Democrat. My parents were Democrats. They were tried and true, but it was a different Democrat party. But anyway, the problem is, we could all go in Monmouth and, Ocean and conservative counties, but we get swamped by Essex and Hudson County, and there's just no hope. You almost feel like you vote. Like I voted for Jack Citarelli, and my husband and my whole family did. But there's no hope, because every time you're so outcounted by these people that just have promised the world, and the Democrats never deliver, but they keep voting for them and voting for them. But I have to tell you, it's taken on a new level with this guy that they just are going to send to Congress, because I'm so sick of never forget 9/11. We have, Rita. We've forgotten. Not me, maybe not you, but a lot of people have.
Definitely not me. Definitely not. Veronica.
I know, because I listen to you every night, so I know it's not you or me.
Veronica, I worry about the young people. You're hitting a very powerful point, because I wonder how could anybody who was around during 9/11 and even well beyond it not be chilled by what happened that day and horrified by what happened that day, and anybody associated with it. Had you said to me a couple of years ago, Veronica, we're going to elect this guy who was couldn't wait to volunteer for the Blind Sheikh, I would have said, oh, what kind of drugs are you on, and yet here we are. And I do wonder, I'd love to get the breakdown of who voted for this guy. Was it young people who just sadly maybe are so disconnected from it? Maybe, maybe in their university they don't teach, sadly, what happened on 9/11.
Well, I'm always posting things on Facebook, and my daughter, I have 2 daughters, and I have 5 grandchildren. They're the ones I worry about. I'm 68 years old. When God takes me, He takes me. But it's those precious 5, my 3 grandsons and my 2 granddaughters that I worry about. And my daughter's always saying, Ma, I agree with you. We're all conservatives, but nobody's listening to you, Mom. I says, well, I'm frustrated. I have to let it out. I either call here on ABC or I put on Facebook. And you know what? If I could just reach maybe one person who just doesn't think that way. And people need to listen to WABC. It's so informative, whether it's you, Dominic Carter, Greg Kelly, or it's Larry Kudlow and Steve Moore. Listen to the economy, the business people. They know what they're talking about.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Turn on CNN and they listen to all this crap.
And Veronica, let me give you a beam of hope, okay? And that's because, we're number one. We are handily number one. This show is number one. We're number one. So you may feel like you're a lone voice, but there's a lot of people out there that are agreeing with me and you, and are agreeing with common sense, quite frankly. To me, it's only common sense. It's only caring about this country where you would say, how could we ever have somebody like this? Or elect a Mamdani, or the guy Abdul Al-Sayed who is running in Michigan, people like that. So I hope that heartens you. And you don't sound 68, you sound 38. And I think you got another 60 years on you. So you got to keep that fire. We need you there. We need you as part of the fire of the Army there.
It's the 5 grandchildren.
That'll keep you busy, Veronica. Veronica, great to hear from you. Thank you very much. Wonderful to hear from you. Everybody, we're going to continue your calls after the break. 1-800-848-9222. And you're listening to The Rita Cosby Show.
Listen to this podcast now
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Why is the middle class shrinking? Why are people facing an affordability crisis while marginalized individuals called informals grow in numbers? Join me as I travel the world, speaking with people living in invisibility, the leaders working to solve it, and uncovering the hard truths shaping our economy and daily reality.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform. The Rita Cosby Show. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And let's go to Max in New York City, line 5. Max, what a mess, huh?
Tell me about it. I'm glad you shed some light on this Hamawy.
Yeah, Hamawy.
Guy, this character, Hamawy. I think this is needed, so my hat goes off to you on the subject. You did bring up the subject, the main subject here, being infiltrated. And that brought to mind a letter that Michelle Bachmann wrote some years back. If you remember, I don't know if she was a congresswoman or senator.
Yeah, congresswoman. I knew Michelle Bachmann, yes.
Good. And she wrote a letter, a 3-page letter. And I was surprised this got even printed.
And what was the gist, real quick, Max?
Right. That we should all be vetting Hillary Clinton's employees because a lot of them have ties to the Muslim Brotherhood.
Wow, that's interesting. When you bring up, and listen, remember under Joe Biden, there was that guy, Matt O'Malley, one of the O'Malleys, remember had ties to Iran, seems sympathetic. That's trouble.
The Rita Cosby Show. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Breaking news.
And just coming out in the last few minutes, Donald Trump is expected to nominate Todd Blanche as the Attorney General. Todd Blanche is the acting Attorney General right now. He took over that role as the acting AG after Pam Bondi left. And he's also been the president's personal attorney. Remember, we used to see him all the time in the courtroom in New York with all those cases with Alvin Bragg and Letitia James and everything else. So President Trump has a lot of trust in him. They go way back. He has been a big fighter for the president, but also a big fighter for justice in general. And President Trump is now expected, we're hearing reports tonight, that he will nominate him officially as the Attorney General. A lot of people thought maybe they would do that, or maybe he might put somebody else in the position. Obviously, it's at the pleasure of the president. But now we understand he is planning to nominate Todd Blanche. Also, another kind of interesting breaking news coming out. Let's do this one.
Breaking news.
And also, President Trump just coming out is saying that a deal could come together this weekend with Iran. That would be a big deal. Again, he says could. And of course, when you're dealing with Iran, everything's a could, and pray for the best and pray that they might even keep their word, which is a slim chance. I have very little faith, obviously, in Iran. I have a lot of faith in President Trump. But President Trump saying that a deal could come together this weekend. And boy, that would be incredible if that were to happen. Meantime, today on Capitol Hill, I had to play this moment. This was a doozy. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was testifying, and they were asking him, of course, about the economy, the cost of the war, a whole bunch of different stuff. And one of the questioners, Tom Tillis, one of the senators there, said, is it true that you and Bill Pulte, who's the new defense, he is the new director of National Intel, taking over for Tulsi Gabbard. That's the person expected to kind of come into that position there. Of course, Tulsi Gabbard dealing with her husband, who has some big health issues. Well, Bill Pulte, there were reports that he had a big battle with Scott Bessent. And Scott Bessent looks like a pretty low-key kind of guy. Has a nice suit, pretty manicured, but there were reports that he and Bill Pulte in the White House at one point almost came to blows. And I think Tom Tillis, when he asked the question, I think he thought he was maybe going to embarrass Scott Bessent. But no, Scott Bessent fired right back and came back and didn't hold back. I guess the message is boys will be boys. Listen to this one.
Thank you for being here. I do have one awkward question to ask you real quick, and then I want to get to some of the trends and how you're going to work on them. Did you actually tell Pulte you were going to punch him in the face?
No, sir. I actually said I was going to kick his ass.
Good. Okay, good. I share the emotion. Thank you.
And as I said, that was last summer 25, and many teams have fights in the locker room and then go out and win for the team on the field.
Yeah. No, I was just curious because everybody's going to be showing that. I made it clear I'm not going to support Pulte for DNI, but I'm sure they're going to dredge that up. But so I thought I'd give you an opportunity to.
I had a very good exchange with the director yesterday. Want to keep the momentum going on the FH.
Yeah, well, he lost me when he went after Powell. Okay. So we can move on to your core job. Yep.
I love that. No, I kicked his behind. That's what I told him. And now we get along is what he said. He said, sometimes you just got to kind of vent. Meantime, we're talking about Graham Platner and a whole bunch of other stuff. And let's not forget James Talarico. That's the guy in Texas who is running there now against Ken Paxton. And Talarico is the guy who said there's 6 sexes. Remember, he's the one who said that God is binary. He's the one who said that the border should be like a porch wide open for everybody to come on in, come on down. And so President Trump was asked in an interview with my buddy Miranda Devine, what do you think of Graham Platner? And listen to this analogy, as only President Trump can do, comparing him and also James Talarico. Listen to what the president said.
And the Democrats have got a huge problem. Graham Platner in Maine is one example, that terrible Senate candidate.
Well, he's a major sleazebag. I mean, you look at him.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that and yet he's up in the polls against Susan Collins. But she's always down in the polls and, she survives. But
they have James Talarico in Texas. They have
I think
Tim
he's one
Walz.
of the worst candidates. Actually, I think Talarico is worse. You want to know the two of them? I think Talarico's probably worse. Talarico is better than Jasmine Crockett. No relation to Davy Crockett. You know Davy Crockett?
Yes, the raccoon hat.
King of the Wild Frontier.
Yes.
But Jasmine Crockett, I thought was her. I think she's a better candidate than him.
Oh, she's better.
I think she would have been better. And she's, grossly incompetent. She's a low IQ person. There are a lot of low IQ people. But, he's horrible. Talarico is horrible. With the 6 genders, with the mask a couple of months ago. He's wearing a mask. Vegan in Texas doesn't work. He's heavy vegan.
You know, only Donald Trump could somehow weave in Talarico, Graham Platner, and Davy Crockett all in one answer. King of the Wild Frontier. And then President Trump also, by the way, today had another interesting sort of exchange. He was taking questions. He was doing an executive order signing, and Peter Navarro was there, and a whole bunch of other people, Rodney Scott with the Border Patrol. All of those guys were there. And then he opens it up to questions, and he turns over and he kind of looks at Caitlin Collins, who is one of the hosts there at CNN. And she's always going after President Trump. She's always reporting on dirt against President Trump. Taking over for Jim Acosta, who used to always do that too. Remember, he used to always interrupt the president every 3 seconds. And if you watch the comments, it was interesting because I actually was watching some of the press conference, and you could see she was kind of sitting there like, what does this guy think? Like, you could even see the shot because they kind of panned to the press pool. I've been in the Oval Office many times, when you're firing questions to the president, and you don't have to look like, boy, I can't wait to ask this question. He's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Your role is supposed to be asking fair questions to everybody. And I got to ask fair questions to everybody. And some of them were tough, but they were tough to everybody. I used to always get told by people I was tough but fair. And I thought, that's great. If I can be both, that's great. But she obviously has a sword in for Trump. There's no question. Just like CNN can't wait to undermine him, and MSNBC. So it pans to the crowd, and she's sort of like sneering and just looking like, who is this guy? Meanwhile, he's sitting behind the Oval Office, and he's there with many members of his cabinet, and she just looked like completely disdained. I mean, I remember looking at it and thinking, why does she just look so like disgusted to be in the Oval Office with the president? And again, even if you don't like the president, you have to respect the office. You have to. If I saw, Barack Obama walking down the street, I would say to him, hey, why didn't you take him in at Martha's Vineyard? All the illegals. No. But I would say, hi, Mr. President. I certainly would say hi to Joe Biden, if he would remember, even though he knows me. Same thing with Bill Clinton, who's still sharp as a tack. But you have to respect the office. And she just looked like she was like someone was putting like bamboo shoots up her, fingernails. Like it pained her to look at him talking. And obviously he saw it too. I saw it. I'll say I was watching and thinking, God, what does she look like? Such a sourpuss. She's there at the Oval Office, and it was just sort of throughout, kind of incredulous at him, if you will. So then he turns to her and he says this, listen.
We'll believe it because they knew what was going on. They're crooked as hell. CNN's a very corrupt organization, but with a corrupt reporter standing right there, never smiles. You never see a young, beautiful woman, never smiles. I never see a smile off her face. I see her standing there with hatred in her eyes, like she has hatred because we have borders, because we have a strong military, because we cut our taxes, because we do things that everybody wanted, and then we win our election in a massive landslide. We win 87% of the counties in this country. Nobody's ever heard of a thing like that. And that's because we're doing the right job. And we took a detour down to Iran because we can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon under any circumstances. We can't let that happen. So the reporters should be happy. They shouldn't be unhappy. They should be very happy. Because you know what we're doing? We're saving our country.
Yes, Mr. President, two questions. One on...
Yeah, and listen, if it's good news for America, we should all be happy. I 100% agree. And again, even if you don't like what you're hearing, you are talking to the President of the United States. Show some respect. Again, regardless of party, show some respect. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Robert in Philadelphia, line 5. Go ahead, Robert.
Hey, Rita. As always, it's lovely to talk to you. I almost drove off the road listening to Bernie Sanders. I don't know why people still listen to that guy, but he's talking about The people can't afford health care. Well, he signed Obamacare. He voted for it. He's saying that we're living paycheck to paycheck and we can't afford the basic necessities. He helped Joe Biden do that. And now he's going to tell us that he's going to fix it. And who are these oligarchs? The only ones I can really think of is maybe Soros, Zuckerberg, maybe Bezos, Elon Musk. But those guys were all helping Democrats up until recently. And he's such a hypocrite, and it's just obvious that he's clinging to old slogans that don't mean anything anymore. And to think that he is going to fix the problem that he helped create, it reminds me of something that a smart man named Albert Einstein once said. You will never solve a problem using the same mindset that created it. And that's what the left thinks they're going to do. They think they're going to spend more so that they can fix the problems that were caused by them spending too much. It's absolutely insane, and only the young and indoctrinated can still listen to that old socialist windbag. You know what I mean?
You know the problem is, Robert, you hit it on the head. They are listening to people like him. I mean, they look at like Bernie Sanders like he's God, which is why all of these candidates like a Graham Platner, like this Hamawy. I mean, the fact that those people were like desperately, like when they got the Bernie Sanders stamp of approval, somehow they thought they were going to win. And guess what? They did. So far, Hamawy is in the finals. I mean, he's probably going to be the next member of Congress, unless, as you heard what I said, they might expel him if they're smart, if they have some decency. And then you've got Graham Platner right now, who right now is about to run in the primary. He's ahead of Susan Collins, who is a much better human being and candidate and an accomplished senator who's perfect for Maine. And I hope to God for the state of Maine that I love, that they have some common sense. Hopefully this guy doesn't get picked. Hopefully there's some surprise outcome in the primary, and that Maine says, no, not on our watch. But you hit it on the head. These young people are so indoctrinated, Robert, and they don't understand reality because they're in this little incubation tube. And I go back, Robert, I think about you and I talked a lot during all of these different protests that were taking place on college campuses. And on those college campuses, I remember like when there were issues and there were problems, and then when it looked like maybe the universities might work with the Trump administration, the first ones who came out and complained were the teachers, remember? So I kind of almost don't blame the kids because they're in this cocoon, and then the teachers who they should look up to and do are just as bad as the students, Robert.
Well, I think that what it speaks to is that when the man is telling you that problems need to be solved, that he's lying to you because he helped create them, and he's gravitating to candidates like the one in Jersey and this Platner guy up in Maine. It shows you all they're about is power and imposition of their dystopian socialist agenda, and America can never and should never fall for that. And I really hope, I understand. No, I don't understand it because I raised 5 kids in a Philadelphia public school system, and none of them are this goofy. You know what I mean? It's if a parent's involved, you can deal with that. But it's just the inundation from everything, and it's all from the left. And I'm just going to point it out every day, man, because these people might win in the areas where people are predispositioned to believe that nonsense, but they can't win nationally. And that's why I think that we're going to be very pleasantly surprised after the midterms, Rita. Let them dig their own graves, and you have yourself a wonderful night.
Thank you, Robert. I love your passion, and obviously you raise your kids right, and we appreciate that. Robert, thanks so much. Everybody, we're going to continue your calls after the break, 1-800-848-9222. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a very powerful story from Vero Beach, Florida, where World War II veteran Bill Keegan, 102 years old, celebrated his birthday surrounded by friends, veterans, and other community members who gathered at the American Legion post to honor his life and great accomplishments. He was drafted into the U.S. Army in 1943, and he served as a combat medic in Europe until 1946. His unit, the 78th Medical Battalion, was attached to the 8th Armored Division, known as the Thundering Herd, and it played a vital role in the liberation of Langenstein concentration camp in Germany during World War II. By the way, part of the treat to honor this great veteran who saw so much in World War II was a motorcycle ride. And even though he's 102 years old, guess what? He got on the back of the motorcycle and he waved, and he was in a special parade with many onlookers marveling at the guy on the motorcycle. How great is that? And everybody support America's military and first responder heroes. Donate just $11 a month to the incredible Tunnel to Towers Foundation. They do so much for our great heroes and for their families. They are the absolute best. Be sure to check them out. There is no better organization out there. Check out the Tunnel to Towers Foundation at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Breaking news.
And all you Knicks lovers, great news. The New York Knicks have won Game 1 of the NBA playoffs, of course, against the San Antonio Spurs. Knicks, it was 105, San Antonio 95. That's Game 1. And Game 2 is Friday. So, of course, you can tell who I'm rooting for. I'm sorry, I love San Antonio, but I'm rooting for the Knicks. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Robert, line 1. Robert, your thoughts from New Jersey.
I can't understand why before you were saying that you were with a lady and you were saying that you couldn't understand why the states were following these crazy laws and observing the murder of our people. But what I don't understand, if you know anything about the Quran, then you know Sharia law, which is at the end of the Quran, promotes that. That's why they're terrorists, essentially, when they follow that law.
You're right. Robert, by the way, I don't know if you heard this. This was really chilling. Bill O'Reilly, we talked with Bill O'Reilly earlier this week, and Bill was telling us he just came back from London, and he said in the vicinity of London, I believe it was, 60 Sharia courts, that they sort of have their own court system. And, they have this honor killings, if a wife and a husband have an extramarital affair, the wife gets killed and the husband gets an award, basically. I mean, it's shocking. And you're absolutely right. It's the philosophy. And they don't back away from it. And that's why, Robert, you're there in New Jersey. What do you think of this Hamawy guy who seems to be fitting the bill on this one?
Anybody that follows Sharia law or follows the Quran has got to be basically not for our Constitution or our way of life.
Well, I'll tell you, I am very concerned about this guy. And the fact that he was hanging around with Palsy Walsy with the Blind Sheikh and even voluntarily testified on his behalf. That's like me saying, I really love this guy, Osama bin Laden. Boy, we have a lot to talk about, you guys. To be continued tomorrow night. The good news is the next one.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here? In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org.